Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion. I hope you are doing well, doing amazing, having a wonderful Thursday. It looks sunny out the window wherever we are looking, and that is somewhere in Jaipur, Rajasthan. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. In India, in January of this year. Oh man, look at this weather setting. That does not look like a January in Colorado. Oh man. Anyway, hi, welcome in. We're continuing our journey with the updates to the RTRAC application. We've done some styling updates. We've done some fixes. This morning, I did the submit results as well as modified a bunch of the ways that the pages are structured now. You're up, Big Gamey. Take a shot. Do your best. Get 100 on your test. Oh man. If you ever feel like another side project, yet another side project, I would encourage you to remake the archery game in Unity as a WebGL deployment, and I'll include it in the app. Not selfish at all. They're so close. Oh. Oh. There was an error. The target machine actively refused it. Nuh-uh. It responded. Unexpected error. Text gen settings. Lev. Duh. Oh my goodness, duh. Kind of helps. You didn't break it. No. No, I did not actually start the LLM on Lev. Let's see if that causes everything to stay broken or if it just picks up where it left off. Load Gemma, please. Loading. I'm glad the archery game worked. There we go. Okay, so yes. Regardless of whether there was a communication error with the LLM, the archery game still does work. So I've been trying to decide how to make this look gooder, and I don't know. I don't like any of the approaches that I've come up with so far. You know? Poo. Whoopoo. Whoa. Habajaboo is my answer. So what I think I want to do is have I'm going to have a padding top, I think. And maybe a border top. Let's see what it looks like as dashed. Kinda. Yeah, I don't mind that too much. It's a clear separation between the overall results, which sometimes shows errors, and the list of TRNs that were submitted and their statuses. Yeah. And the other thing that I might consider doing is that the width should, instead of being 80 VW, Where did I put that? I put with clamp. No, results, man, results. Wrong results, responses. Instead of being ADVW, I wonder if we can do auto as our preferred width and it still goes minimum 40. And it looks like it doesn't do a minimum. I don't like that. But I do like it as auto though. So I'm gonna split this up into min width. Unless 40 is just like super small, but 40 characters should be quite a bit. Gamey. Making things gooder can be hard. Yeah, so it's telling me that clamp is not valid on this, most likely because I'm using auto. If I have it on ADVW, it works just fine. So yeah, I push save. That's funny. So yeah, we're gonna try splitting it up into its different parts. So clamp is shorthand for min width, 40ch, preferred width, which is just width, which is auto, and max width, which earlier I had 80. Okay. And yes, that does have a minimum width now. Googe. Googe. Very, very googe. Very happy with that. Okay. So, we're going to continue. I am going to leave this page as is. I think it's good to go for now. We are traveling next to, I think we're going to stay in the intermediate role, but the next place that I am wanting to go is this finalize TRN screen, which looks just like the submit TRN. What do I say? What do I say? Do I just want to do this page? Let's just do this page. Let's do it. All right, I have a feeling there will be some happenings soon. What happened? No idea what just happened. Hello, 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 TBD Gamer. Welcome in. How are you doing on this fantastic Thursday? I have no idea what you were doing on your stream, Palumi, but maybe you want to tell us about it. Or you just want to get ready for your appointment and not be late. Everything is okay here. Shout out to TBD Gamer. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. I am One Lion. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a .NET developer. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have been streaming my workday, my client work product. So you'll see me working on Blazor applications. I am a solo developer. I've been the primary developer at this site since 2017. I took a short hiatus, I will call it, for about 2 years where I was supporting these systems part-time. Then I came back full-time as my own entity, as my own company. Yeah, thank you so much, TBD. Enjoy, and I hope your appointment goes well. Great stream earlier. It was fantastic. So yeah. And enjoy your breakfast if you get to have any. But so yeah, so I'm streaming my client work product because I don't really get the opportunity to talk with other developers as often. So I use Twitch as a platform to be able to converse and talk with other developers and get their ideas and opinions on the types of things that I'm working on. On Fridays, however, I have an open forum type of thing. I call it Community Day, where I ask any of you who are interested to bring up topics, conversations, anything you feel like talking about that is software development related or technology related. We get a little bit loose with the topics, but I prefer to keep it in that area, that realm. But tomorrow, I am pretty sure that we have Fulisnabel coming in to show us some stuff about shaders that he's been working on. And if you've never seen anything that Fulisnabel works on, it's insane what he can do with this amount of memory, like 32 kilobytes of memory. It is crazy. So I think it's going to be a nice treat. However long that goes is how long it goes, and then if there is time later, then we'll open up the floor even more for some more good conversations. Lately it's been around AI. Last Friday, TBD brought up his thoughts and opinions from some of the things that I was expressing, some of the things that I was showing while streaming. For example, last Wednesday, I believe, I was using GitHub Copilot agent mode to do some of the documentation and mostly documentation on a class library for doing all of the stored procedures for this application while we were working on this application together on stream. So I'm doing a whole bunch of UI updates because the original of this project, the current one that is out there and in production and has been looking like this since 2017 at least, but the core pages have been like this since about 2005 at minimum and have never gotten an update other than when I came in and did a JSP to .NET migration. And I did some cleanup, but not much because oh dear. I did not mean to offend you with this style. But so I did take some time to clean up some of the functionality things. I'm not the greatest at UI, so I didn't want to try my hand at redesigning this or anything. I kept it what the users were used to seeing, but I made sure that the things worked the way they were supposed to. There were a lot more bugs. Just that's a long time for having to look at that. I mean, there's like maybe, well, now we're going to have more users, but there was probably one user, 2 users maybe, using this for that amount of time. It used to be a whole bunch of different labs. So this is a place where labs come and submit their analyses on samples that we send to them. I work at a place where we take soil and water samples, send them to a lab, have them analyzed for certain chemicals, and make sure that we are under that threshold. That's one of the functions of the Rocky Mountain National Wildlife Refuge and this app in particular. But the reason that I didn't really touch the UI as much is because that is one app of let's go here. Oh wait, no, that's a good one to be in after it's done logging me back in. Repos. So all of these were JSP applications when I got here, and they wanted these to go from JSP to some Microsoft technology. That was my original, the thing that I got hired to do when I got here. And since at the time I was most familiar and comfortable with .NET Framework MVC applitions, I turned them into .NET Framework MVC applications. And most of them were organized in a way that kind of felt like the whole model view controller type of situation, where we had it's usually in these COM folders, but like a lot of these just felt like controllers for the specific JSP pages. And then the JSP pages themselves felt a lot like the views that you would go to. Is this a good one to even look at? What am I looking at? Lysimeter. This one had like 2 pages on it, so I guess why not? But you can see all of these angle bracket percents. That's just like in Blazor when you use @ curly brace, or even in any Razor page, essentially. Anything that uses Razor syntax in .NET, that's all this signifies. It's just the Java version of doing that. And there was a lot of JavaScript that I needed to port over, especially in the Flippin' RMA water app. Oh my goodness. Did not like working on that one. So anyway, RTRAC, as I mentioned before, is the application that after we send our samples to labs, the labs do their analyses, they send us back the results using this application. And lately we've had more labs starting to send us back results. It used to be one lab, again, for the past however many years since I've been here. So that's at least 8 years. We've only had one lab. And then starting in about October of last year, we had another lab that was sending us back results, but they were sending us back results in XML or XLS format in Excel. And so we didn't have anything that would turn those Excel stuff into the format that this application was expecting, which is this beautiful file called a TRN, a transfer file. And it has fixed width, character position type of formatting, where the first 3 characters are the install code, an EDI file. I don't know that I've heard it called an EDI file. What does that stand for? Fixed width fields, yeah. Nice, you say. I'm sure you can imagine what the code for parsing this looks like. So one, I didn't want to have to update the user guide. And so this is the, look at the date on this thing. Yeah. This was January 2005. And this is what the app looked like in January 2005. This was actually the login page, and I updated it to look like that 90s style login page. Here's the menu bar. Here's the submenus. Here's the page that I was just on, the RTRAC upload page. So that's this page here. And you can see that I stayed true to the original UI. I kind of just lifted and shifted and changed all of the code behind over to C# from Java. Records check stuff. Oh, it was the best. This was just so good. Oh. So anyway, I didn't want to rewrite the user guide or anything. So I kind of just kept the UI the same. On top of that, we had, as I was saying before, all of these applications to convert and 4-ish desktop applications that were VB6 that I turned into VB.NET WinForms. Okay, but anyway, enough about me. Let me greet all of you that just came in with TBD's raid. Thank you again, TBD. I hope you enjoy your rest of your day. And when a blade of personality saw the UI, they were like, Jesus! And then they ducked and covered. Just, that's a long time for having to look at that. It is terrible. Melaneth says, Doctor prescribes Tailwind. I haven't really been using CSS frameworks. In the beginning, Blazor, I went from JSP to MVC, and then when Blazor came out, I was like, I want to use Blazor. There are a lot of reasons for me to want to use Blazor. I'm going to use it. It seems like the right thing to use for these applications. So I went to Blazor as soon as I could, as soon as I did all of the initial conversions over to MVC. Then I started migrating everything over to Blazor and doing some updates to it, making it more functional, making it more responsive, cleaning things up. Again, 1,000 applications, but I've even turned the desktop application, save one, to Blazor. We still have one left to do because I was busy working on all of the other apps the rest of this time, but we went to Blazor. It's great. Blazor was originally scaffolded with Bootstrap and glyph icons in the beginning. Then they changed it to OpenIconic, and then it's pretty much you're on your own. You don't really get any frameworks when you create a new Blazor app, I don't think. Maybe you still get Bootstrap, but I found myself fighting. First of all, not great at UI, like I said. Second, I found myself fighting with the CSS just to get it to do what I wanted to do. I have learned a lot since then. I'm grateful for that experience, but that kind of also put me in the habit of not really using a CSS framework at all. So I pretty much roll all of my own CSS. But in this app, you will see, because this is 2022 when I was converting it over to Blazor, and then that's when I left the organization for a while. But you will see bootstrappy things. Bootstrap is included in this UI. All right, moving on. And then Ablative said, I've done the same. It just always surprises me. Yeah. And Ravier is here. Hello, Ravier. Shout out to Ravier. You guys don't know Ravier. He's working on an amazing space station game. Are you still working on that game? I only ever lurk on your channel, and that probably sounds bad, but I'm there. I'm watching you. I'm seeing you do all the things. And I know that it's a great environment, and I love hanging out there, but I'm rarely engaging as much. I've been engaging a lot less too lately. It's chugging along. Awesome. But welcome in. Then Ablative mentioned EDI file, and yeah, I was just looking to see if you gave me what the acronym stands for, but I have heard of that acronym. I just didn't know that that was associated with this file structure. Melina says, fixed with fields, nice. I said, but I meant shouted. Ablative said, been around since our grandfathers were around. I've written a lot of EDI transactional stuff for mainframes. Yeah, that's kind of where this came from. I'm pretty sure this application, because the whole cleanup happened because this used to be the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, where we manufactured chemical weapons for World War II. We didn't use those weapons. They needed to dispose of them, so they broke them down into their volatile and non-volatile parts, properly disposed of the non-volatile parts, and then the volatile parts, they put them in barrels, buried them underground, and said, hey, they'll fix themselves eventually. They didn't. Instead, they contaminated the land, caused a whole bunch of issues. During this time, they demilitarized a portion of the land, sold it to a pesticides manufacturer, which I'm not going to name their name, who was also doing great practices when it came to disposing of their chemical waste, which was just dump it into the water. It'll flow downstream eventually. Not really caring that downstream was northwest into the main city, into farmlands, and it was killing off crops. It was causing people to have medical issues. Animals were being born with multiple heads. Everything was dying. The earth was dying. So there was this massive cleanup effort. That's what sparked this entire thing. So this was sometime between the 50s and the 80s and 90s. I think the cleanup finally got finished in 98, and it's just been a process of keeping it maintained. Yeah, and I do apologize. It looks like my stream is going to be a little bit unstable today for whatever reason. I got a message right when I clicked the play button, the start streaming button, that said enhanced broadcast mode is unavailable. And I was like, well, I don't have time to troubleshoot that now. You should have told me when I opened OBS 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago. So anyway, hopefully it's going okay. You could have just dropped Bootstrap on the page and changed the template wrapper. I mean, they were using Bootstrap in the beginning, but again, not great at UI. I didn't want to fight with another CSS framework. I had way too much work to do, so taking the time to learn CSS when my main concern was get these off of, because like I had a year to do all of these applications, to go from their JSP version to their .NET version. In that time, there were so many things that happened. We converted all of the apps to MVC, so I pretty much lifted and shifted all of the UI, converted all of the code from the Java logic to controller backend logic. The views were, I already said that, the views were just copy paste the HTML structure, copy paste the CSS, get the JavaScript in there, and everything should have been functioning exactly as it was when it was a JSP application. During that time, thank you so much for all the follows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And during that time, they said, oh, here's the other thing. We can't have a data center anymore. So we used to have these hosted on a vSphere machine that had multiple virtual machines on it. And we had different servers for different purposes. We had 2 database servers, one for test, one for production. We had 2 web servers, one for test, one for production. We had a file server. We had an ArcGIS server. We had all of these separate virtual machines that were servers. And they're like, well, we can't have a data center anymore. We have to either move all of our data and resources onto the Army servers, because it's an Army contract, onto the Army servers, which they were going to charge us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do, or find a cloud service that was secure enough to host the data. And so we explored cloud services. We ended up on AWS. So not only was I converting the applications, but I was also migrating them into AWS at the same time, which I had never done at this scale of applications before. I've only ever done Elastic Beanstalk by that point, and maybe an RDS. So that was very fun to figure out. Getting domains, getting all of the security permissions. Certificates were easy. As long as you have a load balancer or something to put those certificates on, you get free certificates from AWS. Look at all of these follows. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. And we got a raid from Clayman. Goodness, I was just telling everyone about the wonderful times. Oh, well, that just made chat go a little bit longer. So let me read chat first, and then while I'm reading chat, Clayman, how was your stream? What were you working on? Surely it wasn't Epic Hero Game. Best upcoming game ever. Wait. Did I put EHC? EHG. And hello again, Pixasaur. Oh my gosh, come on. I know that I have Epic Hero Game. Wait. I have an easier way to see this. Epic. Nope. Try this again. Epic. Oh, So I don't actually have a command for Epic Hero Game. Do I have you in my blurb shoutouts at least? Yes. Epic? No! How do I not have... Do I have one for Clayman? I don't have commands for you. I don't know what happened. But anyway, tell us what you were doing on your wonderful day. If you have time, of course. If you have time. Definitely no requirement for you to stick around and chat. If you are ending your stream and just want to have a break or do whatever you feel like doing, I don't want to hold you hostage. I've got the same. It always surprises me. Where are we? Catch up on chat, dang it. DC Aggie's here. Hello, DC Aggie. I heard Apocalypse come in. Melanith said, as long as the backend works better, maintainably ugly documented UI is fine. Yeah. That would really sucks it up fairly easily. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not really too concerned. I do now have a little bit of time and a little bit more experience with UI that I am still just rolling my own. Maybe we'll add in some Bootstrap. I still prefer Remix Icon and Material Icon as my go-to icon libraries. And the game says lurkin is love. It sure is. It's chugging along, said Ravier. And CSS variables are pretty nice if you're rolling your own. So I'll show you my CSS structure. And it's electronic data interchange. Cool. So yeah, it's it's definitely an interesting choice. I hear you. Lots of hats. Big Gamey says, enhanced broadcast mode is what Twitch recommends enabling when you use their 2K option. I'm not sure if it's disabled by default, but I have it unchecked under settings streams. Yeah, and I had mine checked, and I ran all the checks when I was first setting up OBS on this computer, and everything was fine. It's been working fine until today. But Freshmate's here. Heyo. I hope all is well. Black Mage UK, Marcus is here. First of all, shout out to Clayman_dev. Thank you so much for the raid. It's a Clay raid. Route 53, IAM, fun stuff. Exactly. All the things that I had to learn and set up. We did have a systems admin, but that person was not very helpful. Big Gamey did some archery, and the LLM is finally listening and back up. So if you do feel like playing archery, just type !archery and follow the instructions. You type !shoot, chew, or pew, and type in an angle and a velocity. It's to scale for an Olympic archery thing, but the X scale and the Y scale are different, so it's not like to scale. Fixing issues raised in playtest, awesome. It's so good that you have your playtest going on. Yeah, it's looking really cool and fun. And if you don't know, but Clay also made a game called Ragdoll Racing. Please tell me I have that at least. Oh my gosh. I don't even have that. Like, I remember my database for the bot getting reset somehow, and I lost a lot of commands. So I'm just going to assume that I lost Epic Hero Game, Ragdoll Racing, and Clay. I don't know what happened, among others. But yeah, thank you so much. Shout out to, let's see if I am doing this too fast, but Black Mage UK also streams on occasion. He does level design. He does some incredible looking 3D art, graphics, just building things, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Kind of looks like it was a little too early, so I will shout him out again in a second. Fresh Meat says, I require substance as my organic systems demand nutrient acquisition to sustain baseline operational integrity. Well, I hope you enjoy your food and potentially coffee. That's what I would get. OBS can be weird. Black Mage UK says, hope you've been well, buddy. Yeah, I was only 9 seconds off. So shout out to Black Mage UK. Should work now. Give him a follow. He hasn't been able to stream too much lately, especially over the past year. I think he had an additional family member join the fray and has been extremely busy, seemingly. Oh, but I hope you're doing well. I hope you are all doing well. Okay, so just to do a quick walkthrough, I know that the screen is small because I have it set to the larger resolution, but this is not necessarily typical of my CSS structuring currently if I were to create a brand new app from scratch. As I mentioned, I started this migration process for RTRAC from MVC to Blazor back in 2022 before I took a break. We picked it back up a few months ago, and I'm totally baffled by the decisions that I made, and yeah. So anyway, the way that I do CSS is I like using Sass as CSS. And I usually start off with a, what do I start off with? With a color variable. So I have my color themes in place as Sass variables. Then I put in my global variables. Nope, that's not the next one I do. Then I do root. Groot. Yeah, so sassy. Then I do Groot. And root has all of my CSS custom props that you were talking about, typically using my Sass variables so that I have one place to update all of my Sass variables, one place to update all of my CSS custom properties. And this is also where I do theming. I've started considering trying a different method for theming, but here's root that has all of my base style or base declarations. Then if I apply dark theme to anything, it could be a single element, it could be body, it could be HTML, then I override those CSS custom props to be the dark theme. I could use something like prefers dark or whatever that selector is called or rule is called, but I'm not super familiar with using it. I've used it a couple of times. This is working well for me, so I'm okay with it. But yeah, so that's how I'm doing light mode, dark mode type of thing. Ampersand, Then I have my global styles, which apply to everything. Global styles is more, instead of being like element based, it's more like here's my body that gets the font family, typical font size, background color, box sizing, border box for everything. Yeah, just all of those types of initialization type of things. Then I typically have one for all of my inputs. So input type text, input types check, radio, file. What else is there? Select, text area. So I have all of those styles in another partial that's going to apply to everything in the application. And right, my external libraries that get imported. So here you can see I am using the bootstrap that came with the original Blazor template. Open iconic, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And then as mentioned before, my preferred are material icon and remix icons. And apparently I'm using box icons in this. I don't remember using very many of them. And what else? And for everything else that is specific to a page, then they get the isolated CSS. Not many of the pages in this app get isolated CSS because they all look very, very similar. Most of them are either a page that features that is centered around the concept of a transfer file of a TRN, which is a combination of what lab and what segment of samples this record is for. So that's called a lab and a lot. Together they're called a TRN, which is weird because the TRN is the EDI file. Now that I have the acronym, I'm going to use it. So they pretty much get their own global top level CSS that gets compiled with the rest of the application CSS. So that gets loaded immediately. But there are some instances where I have some components that have their own UI, like dialogues. Although apparently I have dialogues in the global as well. So what do I have then? A file picker, for example. That gets isolated CSS. Yeah, but you get the picture. So that's how I structure my CSS typically. I try to do all of my global stuff in partials and have it all compiled to app.css. It would be nice to only load the CSS per page as needed. Because right now, the way that isolated CSS works even is all of the CSS will get compiled. So all of these partials get compiled to one CSS file. Then all of my partial CSS gets compiled to another file that gets included in the main application at launch. So I could do something like defer. I don't know if that's even valid for links, if that's only valid for script elements, but I could do something like defer that says don't load this unless absolutely necessary. And then when you do, keep it in memory. But it's like, when you have an isolated CSS file, there's no way to defer only certain portions of it. It's all or nothing. So these two together are pretty big in the end. But with the internet the way it is now, it's not an issue, especially with our organization. Like, there's only a handful of people that use this. Hello, Eagle. Welcome in. Did I fully greet you, Apocalypse? I hope I fully greeted you. I heard you come in with your yeah. Okay, did I miss any chat? So, that's where we're at. Yeah! Now you just sound like the kid from Neverending Story. So this is what the UI currently, well, kind of. I've been working on the UI bit by bit as I am modernizing it and pulling it over to Blazor, which is going to be done very soon. It needs to be done soon because we have a lot more work. When the other lab started sending us files, we needed a way for that lab to be able to submit those files to us and for us to get it into this RTRAC system. So we spent a few weeks putting together a data import utility. You can find that on my GitHub. Yeah, I know, for .NET 9. I do have that. But I don't remember if we kept this one .NET 8 or .NET 9. No, we moved it over to .NET 9. I should at minimum have the map static assets. Yeah, so I have map static assets, and I should just be able to do what... yeah, this is why I don't go through my files too much, though, because there's so much other stuff to do that's not even a major concern at present. But since we saw it, we may as well. Oops, I missed some quotation marks. Capital A. Capital A. Okay, so that shouldn't break things, or so we hope. Even the fave icon could be a static asset. In fact, it is. Okay. How did I get logged out? Oh, this is the data import utility. So the data import utility by itself is not all that impressive. The UI, at least. The library is functional. There's a lot more that I want to add to it that I have not been able to, because again, all of this other work, but I did make it into a public repo that anyone can contribute to. It is open source, and I try to be welcoming as far as it comes to contributing to this, but it is a library for being able to import any XLSX or CSV, and then it can be extended to support other file types like XML or YAML or whatever other file type you want to try to import, and then turn that into a C# object or a list of C# objects. And you would do so in an ETL kind of way. Here is our original file that we, well, show, don't tell. Provided I have something open. I do. Good dog. Projects. Lab data. Nope. Sample import files. Okay, so here's an example file that would get sent back to us from a lab. Import/deserialize. Well, in this case, it's not even deserialized because this is Excel data. Here you can see that I'm importing an XLSX file. That's getting turned into a data table. So pretty much everything gets turned into a data table. That data table can then be used in these mappings. So you configure for the incoming field, or for every output field, you configure the incoming field. So I want the site type to be populated by the incoming... Jeepers, do you even have a site type in this thing? I don't know what it's going to get populated by. By something. Excel data? Can I get some ice cream? Yes. Yes, you may. And then within each of those fields that you pick, you can transform the values as they are coming in into the output values themselves. You can do mapping, you can do interpolating, you can do regex on it to extract like numbers or segments, and then interpolate that together after in the next step. So interpolate, I'm using this syntax, so they do kind of have to look at what's the word I'm looking for? They do kind of have to understand the syntax of the $ curly brace, but it's very forgiving. So if you do happen to write syntax that isn't actually a thing, it just outputs it as whatever you typed. Although it's saying this is not a valid value for all of these entries. So anyway, so that is the import tool. The open source version doesn't have this dockable toolbar. It's just the select the file, see the data, and then I think the buttons are like right here or something for being able to configure the mappings and preview the output results. like show. And then everything else is specific to the lab data import utility that they're using at the facility on site. Yeah, that made sense, right? Of course it didn't. It makes absolutely no sense. What the truck are you talking about, kid? I also gave them the ability to save their mappings so that they don't have to... Where's your background? So that they don't have to remember how they configured it or reconfigure it every single time they are trying to import a similar file. They can just reload the mapping, change the thing that they need to change, and then they're done mapping. Push the upload button. It gets uploaded to RTRAC, and then the rest of the process gets done in RTRAC. And it's working really well. It's just we need to add a whole bunch more features for this. There are so many different types of rules, like the file name, for example, is just a combination of the installation code, the assigned lot number. So lot number isn't something that's coming in with the file, which means that they can't use it in a transformation. You can only use portions of data that are coming in from the file at present. A distinct number that will distinguish that file number, which is so annoying. Not my rules, I'm just using the existing rules of the application, _lab code. And so everything except for this lot number is imported from the file. But what I would like is some way to be able to reference the output of another field, which has the danger of having these circular references types of things and more complicated situations where we need the output from this field only if this other field has this value in it. Then if it is, add 16 to the number that we're gonna, yeah, it's kind of annoying. So anyway, that's where we are. Plump Tardigrade is here. Hello, Plump Tardigrade. Bit of plump. Scott says when using the map static assets, it's about an 80% file reduction, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so we're going to continue on. This layout here, this is my typical layout. It's like you'll see it in just about all of the apps that I've converted, mostly because it's functional. It gets the point across. No, not water. I keep going to water instead of Waterman. Waterman is the first .NET 8/9 application that I deployed using the new Blazor web app templates. And so it helped me to standardize everything. Hello, Dukesoff. So I just pretty much adopted this side nav with the collapsible, you can see the text, you lose the text kind of thing, you only get icons, and page navigation. I guess DDMS was really the first one. This was the first application that I converted over. This one was a VB6 that went to VB.NET WinForms desktop application that just made perfect sense to turn into a Blazor application. And so it was the first one that I learned Blazor on. So there's a lot of things that I did very, very oddly, but I learned so much, and it was just such a good app. And it's much better than what it used to look like. They were happy with it. The search functionality, they love. I made a drag and drop component that you're able to group things together, that you're able to group things together. Do you need to actually have stuff in order to be grouped? That's dumb. So we have this type ahead component that when you start typing, you get suggestions for what should be in it. Yeah, I don't know why the combining them isn't working. That's odd. It was working. But you pretty much just construct your query in a visual way. That's what it's all about. You push the wrench button after performing your search to see what the syntax is that was generated from your search in case you wanted to learn the syntax. But the DT search syntax is just annoying, so it doesn't. It's better if you either just type in a search term or you use the visual editor. aren't you? I'm not looking at that. I'm not looking at that. This dockable toolbar, again, it's another one of those components that I was just happy with. You say, I want it to be a dockable toolbar. You want a button, you want a drop down, you want a toggle. You have all of those components available to you as children items of this dockable toolbar. I thought that was pretty advanced for 2018, 2019. It was a lot of fun to do too. What else? Oh yeah, submenus. So if there is like a sub application, in this case, DDMS is a document repository. It's a document data management system for all of the documents that were accumulated from the time they started the cleanup all the way through today. They're still adding documents to this repository. The file storage is at about 2.8 terabytes of documents and growing every year because they don't get rid of anything. So we're working on moving that. That's another thing that I have to do soon. We're working on moving that to S3. But because of the way that DT search works and the way that it indexes the documents, it's been a pain. And I'm only one person, and I can do a few things at the same time, but that one was one too many. So we have that happening, but the DDMS tools, wait, this is the maintenance. The DDMS tools was a separate desktop application that was a companion to DDMS. And I'm like, why are they two separate applications when this is just like adding functionality to the main application? Shouldn't they just be together? Wait, this is data packet upload. Wait, yeah, that is DDMS tools. But we have DDMS tools in here now. Wait. Oh, right, because one of them is an actual search. We also have a way to grant a temporary key, temporary login key, access key, whatever they're called, access code to public users. So if you are in the area, you can request to come into the site and look through the public archive. So that includes microfiche, that includes all of our public documents that were released. And so we have a whole bunch of stuff that is available to the public for them to see. So we generate an access token. We say you can only log on once with it, or we can say you can log on twice, or you can say log on until. So this expires after X amount of time, combination of any of those rules. So there's a lot of stuff that we did with these applications. So you can understand potentially why UI has not been at the forefront of my mind. There's all of this juicy functionality stuff to do. Who wants, well, there are people that enjoy UI and I love those people. But I don't. I enjoy writing functionality. I enjoy watching someone press a button, something happens on the screen very fast, a lot faster than they were expecting. Their eyes light up and they're like, this is so much better than what I was using. I'm like, yes. Oh. Okay, moving on. I have been redoing the UI for RTRAC, as you can see. I tried to keep the same familiar layout for them for now. I will continue changing the layout as I get better at design, but this is the current layout for them so that the users that have been using it since 2005 are not going to be like, oh, what just happened? Cognitive overload. I quit. It's time for me to retire. We got this newfangled technology coming out. Next thing you know, they're going to be putting in AI to do my job for me. Yeah, I'm not going to stick around for that. So anyway, that was a fun story I just told myself. So I'm just trying to make the UI familiar to them while also modernizing it a little bit. Especially since this is going from .NET Framework to .NET Core. Like, there's no reason for these things to stay like this. So the page that I'm looking at is, wait, wasn't I in test? How many pages did I open? I don't think we need these anymore. Don't need you. Don't need you. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Oh my. I don't think the test server RTRAC has been logged into for a little bit. It's probably spinning up. That's my hope, and it's not that it's crashed. Okay, so the page that I was just now looking at looks like this on production. Well, this is a test server, but this is also what's deployed to production. So instead of having one screen where you choose the lab and then you push the get and then you can't change the lab until you go all the way back, I have the lab always displayed on screen if you have access to more than one lab, that is. And you can switch back and forth between them, and it immediately updates. It immediately crap. I don't see any errors. Word submit, error equals false. Yeah, we got responses back. Why aren't they showing? Weird. Am I right? Wait, that actually gave me no results at all for submit TRN. Whatever. We'll get it to work. It's fine. Nobody saw anything. And now that Tardigrade is here, I want to talk about the story more. Let's just do the rest of the stream doing creative story writing. If you guys don't know, Tardigrade started a is that announceable? I should ask. Is that something you want to be public knowledge? What's going on? Oh my gosh. How am I even in that? There we go. Okay. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't know if you saw the message that I just had, but the message up here says, select the TRNs to submit. And of course, no one is going to read this. I didn't read this. If you do not see TRNs that you are expecting to see, ensure you have the correct lab and role selected. And right now I have the role final selected, which means that I shouldn't even have access to this page. So that's one thing that I'm going to need to do when the role is updated. If you're on a page that role does not have access to, it should take you to the home page. But I wasn't seeing the lab and role that I was expecting to see, I wasn't seeing the TRNs that I was expecting to see, and that was because I was in the wrong role. Special kid. Okay, but Tardigrade was saying, oh sure, announce away. Yeah. So is it my stream specifically? Definitely check other people's streams to see if they're doing okay. I got a message on OBS this morning telling me that there was just something that wasn't connecting correctly, and it had to do with enhanced broadcast. So it's possible that it's just my stream. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I don't even see a way to set my bitrate manually anymore in OBS settings, because that would help. My bitrate is currently saying 6200, and generally whenever I have streamed and it has gone over 6000, it has been very finicky. So I try to keep it at like 5800. Yeah, but that option is currently set disabled for me. I also had an issue last night with the stream, and I even restarted my internet router and did troubleshooting. Could be the OBS issue, potentially. I don't know what that is, so I don't want to change it. But yeah, this used to be settable while streaming. But it kind of looks like I'd have to stop the stream and restart it if I wanted to change this down to like 5800, which I have had it at before, and it's been fine. So I really do apologize if there is laggy, glitchy stuff going on. It's hard for me to tell because I run a ton of different processes on the computers while I am watching people on multi-stream. So right now, Clay and TBD both rated me, so I am no longer lurking on their channels. But I'm lurking on Layla and C# Fritz, and every now and then, the entire multi-stream will freeze on me, and it's all of the streams, so it's not just one in particular. So it's hard for me to tell whether it's just my PC or Twitch. And I assume it's my PC because I'm doing a million other things at the same time. Oh, here's something I could do. I still want to say it's my stream. Okay. Story. So I don't think you've ever seen this Plump Tardigrade, but the stuff that I was telling you about how we've accumulated things over the years, this is what that looks like. These are characters list, a little bit of information about all of the characters, their Enneagram types, MBTI types, their traits, all of the information about them, whether they are original Lineage 2 NPCs that we're drawing inspiration from that we want to incorporate, or our own individual characters. You'll know that they are our characters because they have all of the information filled in. So these are the characters themselves. Enneagram, but close enough. Then here's more information about them, the concept of clans, the concept of alliances, the concept of orders are in here. This was like, I don't even know what we were thinking, but definitely we have some important things in here, like the Sword of Othelot. That is very important to our story. Angie's Mask is very important. He'd read the novel. This was just like a playful thing. You're a 6-wing 5? Do you know your tri-type? I'm a 1-3-5, 1-wing 9. Self-pres social. And my instinct stacking, I'm an INTJ. Yeah. Which is all just stuff that could explain my behaviors and personality. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am defined by it. For anyone that is out there like, oh gosh, not this spaceology stuff. But anyway, some locations, orders. Orders are important to the story. They are something that I hope that if you do, again, there is absolutely no rush in you responding to anything ever. We've been doing this for a million billion years, but if you do happen to read it, I don't want to give you too much backstory information on these things, just to know if the way that I am describing them in story is enough for you to understand them, or if there's just way too many holes and you're like, the thing that I do a lot of is over explaining. And that is something that I am really, really trying not to do. The races that will appear in the world, working terms, world rules, the consolidated timeline, origin stories, plots, my storyboard, another characters list that's organized by order, individual character information, naming unknown characters, adjectives for one shoe, agile, fast moving, swift. Yeah. 8 wing 5 wing 2. You mean 852, but close enough. So your trifix is 852. You're probably, if I were to guess, an 8 wing 9. But it's surprising you're an 8. I guess that's just surprising to me. I was thinking of having like a magic what's it called? Hard magic rule system, but I like it more fluid, so I don't know. Still haven't quite decided. Light elf summoning versus dark elf summoning, segmented story, random dialogue, people that I wanted to include from the real world to draw inspiration from, with their permission, of course. Tags that we use. So trifix, it depends. There is a version of it that was, and I can't remember which is which, that was endorsed or even created by Catherine Favre. But it's essentially, you know that the Enneagram is split into 3 centers. There's the body center, the heart center, and I guess, is this the right way for you? I think this is the wrong way for you. Body center, yeah, this one, heart center and mind center. And each of them has 3. So 8, 9, 1 are body, 2, 3, 4 are heart, 5, 6, 7 are mind center, head center. And so you as an individual person have an Enneagram type that is prominent in each of those centers. It doesn't mean that you don't have the other ones. It just means that that is what is prominent for you. And they are in a specific order that's like your prominent, dominant, primary type, which you said yours is a 6. And then your wing on that type is 1 number away, either for you 5 or 4 or 7. And then that impacts the way that 6 is coming through for you. It drives you. And then your center in each of them is the thing that kind of fleshes out more your, when you're in a negative state, how do you tend to respond? When you're in a energetic state, how do you respond to things? So it's really robust. If you get into it, it does more than just say, I am this, therefore I must act like this. Whoa, dang, that was your first shot too. So close. It has a lot to do with how do these things interact to influence the way that you interact with the world around you. So yeah, that's the Enneagram for anyone that has heard of it and maybe had opinions on it. There's so much to it. And then there are modalities, and those modalities can be anything. It's cheating you. I don't know what's going on, Big Amy. There are 3 modalities, and they are kind of like animal instincts. They are social, which is, you know, social. Someone that thrives on, or not thrives on, puts more emphasis on the people-to-people relationship type of thing. There's self-preservation, which is the people who are like, I need to survive, I need to take care of myself, I like the creature comforts and stuff. And then there is sexual, which is, I need to be attractive, I'm attracted to things, I need to express that, that has to be a part of my world. They are in a specific order. Usually 2 of them are dominant. The first one is very dominant, the second one is in support of your dominant, and then the third one is your blind spot. So sexual is my blind spot, I'm self-pres social. There's like so much to it. So if you combine all of those things and you combine my cognitive function stacking using Myers-Briggs, then you get a clearer picture of my behavioral patterns, how I think, why I do what I do. And if you understand it and you recognize it in other people, you can understand how to interact with them better, how to treat them better is what I would hope you would use it for, or understand their point of view, be more empathetic, be more open, be more forgiving of people being people. Was that everything? No. There's one more thing that I wanted to show you. Tardigrade. This is now a me tardigrade stream. No. we'll get back to development in like 20 seconds. There are some words in here that are probably graphic, so try not to read the words. Just look at the main thing that I'm showing with this is the depth of information. This is the document that we kept as a living document for whenever we have ideas, we jot it down in here. When we have inspiration, when we have scenes, when we have just anything that comes up about the story, a connection that we just realized. You were talking about connections being one of the most important, foundational, rewarding parts. Yes, you are, Turgis. Hello, Turgis. Rewarding and foundational things in story writing. And so we've had a million billion. So that was all timeline stuff. The rest of this, starting from page 426 on through page 521, is fragmented story, ideas, entire narratives. That's not a narrative. Entire subplots. Here's a narrative. An entire narrative. Another narrative. This one was from a dream that I had. Whoops. We're definitely not saving this. And we've gone through each of these and we've tagged them with important information. Who's involved? What is it surrounding? We gave them ratings. Does this belong in the story? Can we take it or leave it? Do we not like it anymore? We've done all of it. Every single bit of it. Then we took this and we put it into World Anvil, tried to organize it, came up with a more coherent story, storyboard and timeline. And I started the story about 3 or 4 times, and it's like whenever my wife and I do our creative story sessions, we're just adding more to this document. And we're not actually creating the coherent story, even though it's there. We know all of the pieces are there. It's just putting them together. So anyway, that was an introduction. All right, see you later, Ablative. That was an introduction to Tardigrade. Now you're on my mind, Turgis. To Tardigrade, who recently started their Discord server. Restarted, I guess, because you used to have a Discord server. And it's centered around this creative space, this writing, literature, all of the things creative. So if you're interested in that, if you feel like it, Turgis, drop in your invite link to your Discord. I keep saying Turgis, Tardigrade. If you feel like it, drop in your invite link if you want more people in there. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy. So I will be probably posting things in there. I'm just double checking on. I like tardigrades. Yeah. Who doesn't? Oh, I know someone that doesn't. Someone who thinks their mouth looks like a. Anyway, so this is RTRAC. Welcome back. Okay, so we are in the final roll. We are trying to style this page. Who could that be? Urge just smug. Oh, I don't have a lab picker on this page. We need to add the UI. So this is one of those situations where I am reusing this information here multiple times. And I'm kind of feeling like this should be a base component, and I just changed the content for the record check, chain of custody check, submit, or finalize. But we need submit and finalize. Is it really final biota? No, it's not finalized biota. Export or something. Goodness, what is the name of this page? TRN export. It's called TRN export. I just said it. Salad. Okay, so but yes, you're always welcome to chat as much as you want. I will most likely only be responding to chat that is related to what we are doing or what we have been talking about. Since I'm doing my work product on stream, I am a little bit more careful about how much time I spend doing non-work related things on Wednesdays and Thursdays, because I do want to make sure that when I bill my client, I had actually been doing the work that I am billing them for. If I end up feeling like I have not done enough work, then I will not bill them for that amount of time. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that I'm doing work for is to be able to sustain my lifestyle. And if I don't bill them, then I don't get to do that. Pasta. Yeah. Okay, so this is header. That's TRN selection. This needs to be a TRN page. And this is a submit page. Is that what I called you? Submit page. Let's just call you submit page. Am I using this anywhere? Yes, I am. Oh, but only in the submitted report pages isolated CSS. Good. This is going to be a submit page, as well as a TRN page. Turn page. Huge. You'll have the same description about if you're multi-lab or if you are multi-role. This is how we multi-role. Ha, yeah. Tardigrade says, "Aw, thanks for the promo. Here's the invite link for anyone who would like to join. All are welcome." Awesome. Well, you know that I'm in there. Tardigrade was also talking about wanting to start a stream, I think. So any encouragement or advice there, I believe, is welcome. You've already got so many things in your meme channel. I mean, in your circulation desk. How did your circulation desk turn into a meme channel? That's a lot of Chris Tucker. I need coffee. Okay, we needed a lab picker too, so that we can see TRNs based off of the lab. So let's grab the lab picker. Again, this is all copy pasta, but I'm already thinking that this needs to be a base component, essentially a base class that we inherit from, so that we have the same lab picker, same styling, same all of it. When I save, this should hot reload and update. Hot reload on file save. Ah, browser link is off. Okay, we're gonna re-lunch. Lunch. You are always welcome to talk about food too. I will do my best not to engage in those food conversations, but that's one of the hard ones for me. And look at all of these. So TSP is pretty much the same as everything else, except for air samples as opposed to water and soil samples. But I don't think that they have used the TSP functionality of the application in a long time. When I looked at the stored procedures that drive it, it was broken. It was very broken. And nobody cared. Which means that it would have been broken before the time that I even got here. So they've been submitting air samples using regular. Does this actually work? Using regular TRN submission. The answer is yes. But there was an error in AOFX. So here's the contents of the file that just got downloaded from selecting both of those TRNs. And it's telling me that this one, for the first sample, I'm assuming that this is an analyte and not a method, that it must be blank. Huh? Then how did it pass the record checks? Is there a way to return? Right, there should be a way to return. Good. Okay, so we're gonna figure out how this page works eventually, but for now, let's just see if we can finalize this one without error. Yes, and it was finalized. We get the toast that says it was successfully finalized. No output in the UI, where in the submitted page, we actually have output. Welcome back from Lurksville. So yay, this page is pretty much done, except that there is no additional UI that gets displayed. Is that how it is in the original application? This is going to be so hard to tell. There's so much spaghetti. Or as we like to say in the Midwest, spaghetti. Man, I want to talk about story now. Dang it, Plump. Where are we? We are in TRN export. Is that what I called it here? No, of course not. Export TRN is probably the page. Yeah, finalized TRN, regular data finalized TRN. So the question I want to know is, when we do a successful submit, where does that get displayed? And the answer is we should go to the view. What do you mean view code? There should be a go to view button. Why isn't there a go to view button? I'm in a controller. In an MVC application. That's odd. Okay, so if the user is multi-lab, then they get a drop-down list first, and there is no lab selected. They pick the thing, they hit submit, and when it is successful, we have a spacer. We have a spacer, but we don't have any content. So yeah, it looks like in the original app, there is no success message when you submit. Why is there a table? Hold on. Why is there a table? Is finalize and air data. Okay, so if this was an air data, then there would be a table. That doesn't make any sense. And then what is this? Is this still within the same if? Yeah. And then you get a submit button. More buttons. More buttons in more places. And I love the wrapping a button in an anchor tag. Okay, so we're fine. I'm not doing anything different that the original application doesn't do. It does do. I'm not doing anything different than the original application. Yeah. Especially since I broke out the air submission and air finalize into their own components. So I think we're done with the finalized page. That was pretty easy. It's just a lot of copy pasta. Standardizing this and pulling out components and stuff is going to be more fun, in my opinion. Like this header here, we can make a header component for all of our pages that always shows the title, the main message, and then the standard, do you want to show the, if they have multi-lab or if they have multi-role, show the additional stuff. That's going to be nice. This entire section for picking the lab, the only difference is what text gets shown on the button and what functionality happens when you click the button. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I love componentizing things. All right. Where are we? Peru? Why are we in Peru? That's fun. Okay. What is the next page? We're going to go back to intermediate because I want to go through all of the menu items in intermediate first. The compare duplicate lots is going to be great. Should I, because like I didn't decide that until recently that I was going to go in order of the menu items. I was just doing the major functionality points and those are all done, which are record check, chain of custody check, submit, and finalize. So loading data. The reason I put this one off is because of that lab data upload utility. I want this upload area to be able to tell whether I am trying to upload a TRN, that EDI file that we saw earlier, which I have one right here. Sample files, load data. Data. No, I missed. I always miss. Why does that take forever? Does it break? So functionality on this page, I guess, is one thing that we do want to look at the same time. I like doing that first anyway. So we're going to find out if the functionality is indeed broken or can be improved. And or can be improved. And what is the name of this page? RTRAC upload. Control-Shift-F, data / RTRAC upload, which is the load data page. Data. My accent, by the way, for those of you wondering, is very American. I was born in Germany, but on a military installation. My dad was in the Army. Both my parents are from Puerto Rico, though. And they spoke to me in Spanish, but I always responded to them in English, so I'm not very good at speaking Spanish. But I was raised mostly around military kids. I'm a military brat, I guess. So that's where my accent comes from. To many people, it might be called lack of an accent, I guess. Yeah. Okay, we need to figure out what's going on with the upload. So on file change or handle files added, we are doing files added. We should see that in the console. Hey, and errors. Look, there's errors in the console. So we did start the handle files added. That should mean that it would have done a check files to make sure that the file name didn't already exist in our imported records or in our archived records either. And whether or not import was allowed for that file. Cool. So what exactly is this error? Static property requires null instance. Non-static property requires non-null instance. Parameter expression. Do you have like a line number? Oh yeah, right. This was part of the comparison tracker library that Nick the First One made a long time ago, like back in the ancient days, back when the internet was this thing where it was like you had an outer net and you had an internet. but it wasn't quite the internet yet. And that's the way bug goes. So yeah, he doesn't have any updates for it. How are we using it then? Come down here. I like having my C# files and SAS files down here. Man, I am always clicking on the I just completely lost the word for this. Code lens. Like when I'm trying to click off of things and I'm like, I just want to set this as the focus screen, I end up clicking on, yeah, and now when I'm trying to click on, it doesn't work. End up clicking on the code lens and just keep popping up stuff, and it's like, I just want my cursor. Give me my flipping cursor. Otherwise I'm gonna cry. We still need user state because this page is now going to have a if the lab updates. But where are we? There are always too many clickable things. Agreed. Agreed. Claims principal user equals default. Did I do that with these? Okay. So I have done some cleanup throughout the application to use the syntax that I prefer now. And in this case, my claims principal, which should give me a warning. Yeah, that you are declaring claims principal as non-nullable, but it's null. And actually, we should be able to fix this now. And no, we can't, because we have this async method. Okay, I was going to say we can now use constructors from .NET 9 on in our code behind for Razor components, which is great when you don't have async stuff that you want to do on initialize. So anyway, allow null, because by the time we exit the on initialized, we will have a claims principal. So I am guaranteeing that this is going to be non-null by the time this page loads for the first time. Okay, so here's our handle files added logic. We get our console, right line, handle clear clicked, really? Expanded files. Why are we clearing out the files? And where exactly is this clear button? No idea, but apparently we are clearing the table, maybe, or the display before we get the file information. So we saw this get called, which means that all of this was successful. This TRN service, the way that I structure my my Blazor applications, and just about any application, well, I guess everything that I do now has Blazor UI, but I guess I have class libraries that are just class libraries. I separate them into things that can be shared between the client and the server if you are in a client-server type of environment. This includes interfaces and abstract classes and all of the models that those interfaces and abstract classes use, as well as shared DTOs and stuff like that, which I guess is all of the models and stuff that all of the abstract and interfaces use. The service interfaces are just you use this in your UI and you say, if you ask for this service, you can do all of these things. In this case, we're going to be able to check files for the files that we are trying to upload or read from, at least. However, the way that gets, the method that actually gets called for this depends on whether you are running in a WASM type of environment where the code will be running in your browser on the client, or you're running in a Blazor server type of environment where it's going to run directly on the server, or you're an API and you've received the request and you're going to call the server method because you are on the server too. So I make 2 implementations for each interface service. The first one is the client side that pretty much just does a HTTP request, gets the response, decorates it, sends it back to the requester. And then there's the server side implementation. Oh, right. And then the HTTP request goes to an API, a hosted API endpoint, which is hosted on the server, which is just a whole bunch of controllers that mirror the services, and all they do is forward the request to that service. So in this case, we're looking at check files. Yeah, check files. So check files will be an API endpoint that just says return OK every single time, because I return a response model every single time that determines whether it was actually a failure or not. This way I don't have to worry about HTTP request failing. All that we get is the response model that indicates whether there was a failure or not. Then the server-side implementation is the one that goes to the database, gets the information, does updates, file server stuff, anything server resource related. Blue Blue's here. Hello, Blue Blue. I need to focus for exactly 40 seconds so I can record 40 seconds of content and make a huge amount of progress. You can do it. All you have to do is believe that you can. And again, hello, Beck. TBD, did you already go to your appointment? Are you in the waiting room? It was PT. Well, I hope it went well. Sounds like you are recovering quite well. You were able to do some karate recently. No, that's sad. Did we do a good shout out for you? I'm sure we did. Anyway, there's a shout out for TBD Gamer. He rated us earlier. He was doing .NET development on Liquid Sky and wrestling a little bit with Pulumi. He's starting to make a lot of progress though. He got deployments done. His Cloudflare reverse proxy stuff seems like it's working. Had some issues with some CNAME entries, and yeah, but it's getting there. It is so getting there. But he does Liquid Sky, Sky, on Tuesdays through Thursdays, and developers.stream, which is a side project for if you are a developer that streams, you can register yourself on this platform and be discoverable. And if you are someone that wants to watch developer streamers, you can go to this platform and do some searches for who is streaming, what technology that you are interested in seeing, are they live, etc., etc. It's not all put together yet, but it is an open source project that you too can contribute to if you so desire. There may also be an API that streamers could access, so that if someone speaks in their chat, for example, they can look them up in this API and say, hey, do they stream? If so, give me their information. And we could do a fancy shout out. That's a little bit more than just, actually, this is still pretty fancy. So I don't want to, I don't want to make Dukasoft's thing, Dukasoft bot, seem insignificant, because this at least pulls the about information. But most shoutouts just do check out blah at https://twitch.tv/username. You'll get more than that. You'll get a nice little blurb about what they do. If they've uploaded it, of course. Dukasoft is, or Dukabot is not DookieBot. No, it isn't. Not in the least. Although I think Dukasoft would probably say it is, in a semi-proud kind of way, oddly. I don't think it would be a put down. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we are doing this check files. And do you fail after check files? I think I saw another request. No, so check files is the last HTTP request it does. But this has to do with the change tracker, comparison tracker. So we haven't gotten to that code yet. So we're assuming that this returns, well, we don't even have to assume that this returns a valid result because we saw it in the network tab that it returns a valid result that is not was error equals true. So we are good. Okay, so let's get back to the finalized page, which is called trn export. Had errors, initialized to false, all errored, initialized to did all of these. We're initializing this to true. Somebody read this to me. We're initializing all errored to, for our response, it has a return non-null return object. So we have a response, a non-null response. We have a non-null return object, and the number of items it returned is more than 0. Then that would be true, which we're inverting. So it would initialize to false if we have at least one return object in the response. Okay. However, if we don't have a response or we don't have any objects in the response, then it initializes to true. And we're still setting it to true here immediately when return. We don't need this. That's duplicate. Think of what other issues could be here. So there should be no way that request response is null by the time we get here, but it is definitely possible. We either have 0 records or the collection is null. The return object is null. An unexpected error. That's what it was. It's just an unexpected error. Did I miss anything? No, we're good. Keep going. Otherwise, if we do have a response and there was an error, then we mark had errors as true, do a toast. We keep checking for errors. If anything was an error, and if everything was an error. Oh my gosh. Imagine an application where the entire thing works by expected errors. I mean, that's kind of what this feels like, isn't it? Throw new item was added exception. Item was added. What? I think it's called event driven. That's kind of what that feels like. Because aren't events interrupts, which is kind of the same thing? Disaster driven development. Yeah, pretty much. This is TBD. You're absolutely okay. At the moment, I am able to stay focused, so it crawls back to Kubernetes. Good luck. Crawls back and begging for forgiveness or begging for it to work. Since you're on your my cautious style of development, says DC Aggie, might be called trauma-driven development. I think that that's more true than a passive joke. That is actually very, very close to how many of us do software development, approach software development. That's a conversation in itself. I don't think you're wrong. Anyway, Plump was laughing at TBD. I hope at TBD. As in with, not at because you're funny looking. You are kind of funny. No, you're not funny looking. You look fine. Okay. I tried to paint myself into a corner. Dig. Dig and dig and dig and diggity dig. Trauma-driven teaching, most state of teachers currently. Yeah, so again, here's some more parallels in industries that aren't just software development. Oh man, that is a really, really, like, I want to explore that. Trauma-driven development. I never thought of that as being a thing, but it could be a real thing. The reason that I'm doing it this way is because when I've done it in the past, this other way, it's bitten me in the behind, and so I never do it that way. The reason that I don't use CSS libraries is because I've had to fight with CSS libraries in order to just center a div. Okay, so, man, anyone ever play Famous Last Words? This is kind of like the same concept. What I just saw, by the way, is that we made it all the way through the handle files added. Here's handle files added. Goodness me. Take me back to this. Okay, we made it all the way through this without, no, we made it through the check files, sorry, without error. And we are now here. We have a curve file check response. We await invoke async state has changed. I don't know why we needed to await invoke async state has changed. We know by this point that this has been called on the UI thread. It is a callback on an event that happens in the UI. That's just a thing that doesn't need to happen. As soon as we do that, we set up some tasks, but we don't know whether this is where we have already bound, or we've already associated, referenced the result of this check files to this response. We don't know if that's what's causing this UI issue, although we should be able to see further down. Line 31 in load data. Load data is a separate component. Oh yeah, no, we're in the right. I was like, wait, am I not in submit TRN? No, we're in a completely different one. That doesn't make sense. Why would that be line 31? Oh, of .razor, not .razor.cs. Aha. Aha. Okay. At this point, it's relying on upload request. Why is it even doing any of this in the flippin' component? TBD, this is where I need you to scold me, not because I'm into that. I'm definitely not into that. I'd cut you. But because I am doing something that you had, I don't want to say complain. Complain is such a terrible word, that you had brought up in the past about having logic inside of the Razor file that doesn't belong in the UI. As one of the things that you don't like about Blazor, there's too much opportunity for that to happen. Group hug. Oh, DC Aggies. Wait, up a little further. Here we go. Trauma-driven teaching. DC Aggie says, and I'm a developer for a university. And Plump Tardigrade said, oof, I worked for years at a university. Never again. DC Aggie says, someone please play soothing music and kick up this aromatherapy. Plump Tardigrade said, hugs. Hugs. TBD Gamer said, or emoted, chucks some essential oils, candles, and a cassette tape. Oh, yes. Wait, with some panpipes on it. Peter Cetera. Let's do a cassette tape with Peter Cetera on it. Then DC Haggy said hugs back to Tardigrade. And then Panpipes, are you trying to push me over the edge? Chews on candles. You're not supposed to eat those. TVD Gamer says, yep, and I've seen things. DC Aga said, sticking to something like MVVM and clean architecture can prevent business logic winding up in your UI. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that this logic here, it looks like it's specific to the way that the data is supposed to get displayed, not necessarily the way to get data, but like the name of this method, get track data, sounds like there's some functionality going on there and not just give me back records that have already been processed. And TVD says, fine. How about some Enya? Yes, please. That was my favorite cassette. Yes, please. DC Aggie says, current popular Blazor usage kind of begs for logic to end up in dangerous places. Absolutely agree. Like a bullet bike without a helm, it will probably end up poorly. True. TBD says to DC Aggie, nothing can prevent business logic ending in the UI given the will of a developer under a time crunch. True. And that makes me sad because I am that developer that was under a time crunch and I made these decisions. Why? Why did I make those decisions? Okay, but we are seeing that it depends on track data, which means, or on upload request, which means that we need to get to a point where we have an upload request to begin with. So when we finish the handle files added, we called status changed. It tried to re-render. This all would be null. So it is entirely possible that the static property requires null instance, non-static requires non-null, is in regards to this being null. But that doesn't make sense because we wouldn't even try any of these x.has changes. Oh my goodness, hiccups. So this is kind of telling me that we have... Wait, and now we're in file picker? Was that file picker.razor? Yeah, line 45. Okay, so that's just the render fragment for displaying the content, which means, again, we have files. What are we binding to? Let's keep going. Handle files added. We did the status change. Everything was null. We're fine. And we're now doing process file in an async way. Await task when all, which means that at this point, these have kicked off and started processing, even though we're awaiting them here. So they're definitely starting here, which means that some of them would have been done. And not all of them. So are we trying to use... And we're doing a invoke status changed in between all of them. Here. So we're starting to add records to them and then update the data for those records. And so if we add the record immediately and something else called status changed, there are opportunities for this to not have happened for the current record. What does that mean? means that we shouldn't add the record to upload requests until we finish with this process. So let's rearrange something. Was new is true. Movie down here. And let's say if was new. So we won't add it to the collection until down here, but I'm just like, first of all, we're dealing with a collection and we're modifying that collection in a parallel processing kind of way, and it's not a thread safe collection. What am I thinking? What am I trying to do here? This is a bad idea. Tardigrade says, adding records and data causes me to twitch in library cataloging flashbacks, but you had a not good experience doing cataloging? Like, I know the records were pretty crap, even OCLC records, or what's the other major agency? I guess OCLC really is the only one that you use as a source of truth for everything, but even then, it still looked like a fun process. I would have loved it. DC Aggie responded to TBD Gamer saying 100% agree first. Second, I'm going to keep trying anyway. Keep trying to prevent business logic from ending up in the ooey. Ooey. Yeah, I think one of the main things that we're going to have to do here is make this non-parallel or make this like a concurrent bag or something. I'm not great at using thread safe collections. It'll be an experience. We'll have fun with it though. Dang. Okay, so we are going to need a little bit more debugging happening. It's the same error, same location. We need to find out where this is happening. I love OCLC, but the LMS called Alma by the company Ex Libris was so dysfunctional, it would not even play nice with OCLC. Oh, yeah. Dang it. I just had the name of the one my wife used, of the ILS my wife used. I remember Pegasus being a thing, or unicorn being a thing. No, I said ILS. Circe. It was Circe. Circe Dynix. Symphony. Symphony was definitely the name of the ILS she used as it was transitioning to Unicorn. There's one called Sierra, which is truly lovely to work with, even with the UI from the 90s. Yeah, she pretty much did all of her cataloging in an Access version of the library database that I threw together, and then would just copy the, or not even need to copy the records. I think we had a way to export the records directly into the ILS. Did someone say Access? Of course I did, Zerg. I'm always talking about Access. TBD says, I want to start a podcast. Call it Software Therapy, where developers just talk about experiences, not solutions, for venting for an hour. Have you tried a certain channel on a Discord called Rant? That's what the Rant Room is intended to be. You don't talk about solutions. You don't try to resolve other people's problems. You don't tell them, oh, you've had it worse than them, or here's another way to look at it. You just say, I see you. And if you are going to say something, it's along the lines of, yeah, that is annoying. Yeah, that is frustrating. Something in agreement. That's what that room is intended for. Oh man. And I forget, did you tell me that RDA did actually become a thing or not? Resource description and access. It was crazy because like the Library of Congress was the one pushing for RDA, and they were sending the library technicians and oh gosh, what are you called? Research librarians and stuff to these trainings. They were forcing them to go to these trainings to learn how to do RDA, and nothing. We heard absolutely nothing after a while. My wife learned how to do RDA cataloging, and it just got quiet. She even tried to get in contact with someone at the Library of Congress that was head of this entire effort, and they were like, I don't know what RDA is. What are you even talking about? There is no such thing as RDA. I have worked with the Library of Congress long distance, love them, but horrendous to get in touch with, absolutely. At least back in 2000 and when would that have been? 2010, 2011, 12? Right, I'm going to use console write lines instead of putting this in debug just because of the asynchronous calls here. Finished file check. Excuse me. I belched. Record count. I'm not even going to do the whole parentheses S thing here. Normally, I would go through the trouble of doing the if record count is not 1, then put an S, otherwise leave it off kind of thing, but lazy. It probably only would have taken me the amount of time it took me to describe that to do it, but lazy. Just think. Was error. Okay, so that's one that I want. Bleh. I belch. Oh, I thought that said bleh. It's one of my favorite. Is it an onomatopoeia? I mean, it's something that is naturally spoken, like it's an actual, but it is kind of a word that stands for a noise. Anyway, it's one of my favorite onomatopoeias. I'm gonna go with it is an onomatopoeia. Tardigrade said, I dealt with them 2017 through 2021. Geez, that's even more recent. I went there in person in 2016, and even though it was a scheduled visit, no one somehow knew I was coming all the way from South Carolina to DC. Facepalm. And then DC Aggie said one line, I belch. I can read. Okay, done derailing. I've been doing okay with the derails today. I still feel like I'm getting progress done, moving forward. It's when I start feeling like I'm just not getting stuff done. File processing. Yeah, I'm going to leave that right there because... Oh, you know me. Okay, and then for each one of these tasks, I am going to... Is there a way for me to get the index? I'm pretty sure there's a way to get the index, right? If we do .select x index, we should be able to pass in the index, for example, for which one we are working with. Oops, lowercase I, please. I don't see any errors, so it's okay with that. Index should be an int. Hello? Hello? Doesn't matter. We know it for sure. So we're going to console me. DC Aggie said, or first of all, we have a chat from the YouTubes. Hello, Ernesto. Have we seen you before? Your name sounds so familiar. Happy Thursday to you as well. Zerg says, does it implement iBelch interface? DC Aggie said, should have dropped a line. I'd have bought you a drink. Oh, yeah. Please travel back to time. Travel back in time and know me. I think that's what it meant to come out as. I don't know if you heard on, it was probably last week, Thursday, but I'm pretty sure that I was in the Alexandria, Virginia area that DC Aggie was in at the same time, pretty much shopping at the same grocery store he shopped at all the time. And we probably crossed paths many times. My time machine is out for repairs. Cool. Processing file. Okay. Oops. Console. Did index come first? Index. Right. Another console. I should be using debug.writeline, so it only shows it in the thingy, but it's easy enough to find console.writeline and delete all of these lines. Kids, don't do this at home. If you are going to do debugging, just attach the debugger. It'll take less time than writing all of these out, you know? What are we doing here? Tardigrade says, my brother lives in the northwest quadrant of DC, lives for years. So I spent a fair amount of time there. Okay, so it was lived. I was like tripping over my own words because I'm like, did I just mess up your words again? I love the Adams Morgan neighborhood, amazing bookshops and coffee nooks. Yes, you know where all the cozy spots are. Okay, console line parse. Yes, that was what I wanted. Parsing. Console? Are you just gonna do it all for me now? It'd be cool if. I wonder if he gets just as excited about the phrases I do. It would be cool if. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Copilot. All right. So before we start commenting parse file, we're going to see if any of these points will give us a better hint at when we are encountering this exception. You're just waiting for it to finish building and running again. You can see the little animation up here to let me know that it was doing something. We weren't just sitting there waiting for a screen. Try the upload, handle files added. There were all of our messages. There were 2 errors actually, and now we're able to see that there were 2 errors, not just one. I hadn't noticed that earlier. Adding 22 files. Oh, all right. So kicked off file processing for 1 file. Processing file 0 because we're getting the index, which is named this. Parsing file. That's interesting. I'm going to have an issue when we try to use multiple files. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a second file and a third file, apparently. Whoops. And once we're done debugging this, we're going to find out if we really do have a concurrency issue. I'm assuming we will, but I don't think that that's what's going on here. Because we are only doing 1 file, I completely didn't consider that this is asynchronous per file, not asynchronous per record in that file. And we are await parse file 1 file at a time still, because it's all one big text file. What am I thinking? This is a string, right? No, this is the iBrowser file, but we're only using the content. Read stream. All right, we'll get there. So we're processing that 1 file. We're creating new file details for it. We're parsing the file. We made it through parsing the file. Interesting. And so now we're adding 22 records, which should be the total number of records that are appearing in this file. Where's my notepad? A notepad. Notepad? Have you ever set down a wires? Okay, so this is the file that I am uploading. How do we turn off word wrap? There are, how do we turn on line numbers? There are no line numbers. Okay. There. Okay, 22 records in this file. Hello, Napalm. How have you been? I love Cleveland Park, says DC Aggie. Admo? So posh. And saying it the cool way. And you're calling someone else posh. Zerg says, the client doesn't want any kind of logging, question man, like in an app insights kind of way? Probably. Would you like to set it up? I have considered it. I've really wanted it, but I was not skilled in it when I was converting these applications, so it didn't make it into the initial conversions. It would have been perfect when I was first setting everything up, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't even know it was a thing. I just knew, I didn't even know about iLogger. First of all, now that I'm saying this, there was no dependency injection when in the framework, in the .NET framework that I was using. I didn't know .NET framework, or I didn't know dependency injection. I didn't know anything. I just knew MVC, standalone application, deploy to IIS. I knew how to do that. And how to do C# and how to write automation. And yeah, I still know nothing as well. Yes. I will continue to claim that. Actually, no, I won't. I know things. I don't know all the things. I don't know the good things. I don't know the smarter ways to do all the things because I don't use the technologies that are the smarter technologies. I use the things that I know. and the methodologies I've come up with or learned from other people. So point is, I wasn't doing any logging when I created the apps initially, or converted the apps initially. I only recently started using iLogger, dependency injected iLogger factory at that, and Serilog, and that's working well, but I've really wanted the app insights and other things to give me more information about how the applications are used, where it's crashing, what kind of issues we're facing, places for improvement, all that stuff. Napalm is saying, busy working on event-based sync system from auth0 to our solutions. And hey again to TBD Gamer. DC Aggie says, I know nothing. I was a VB coder at one point. Yes. I started off doing VB6 and then, well, not perfect. Well, I don't know. I started off doing VB6 for a company called Vector Programming. Vector, I think it was just called, no, Votron. Not Voltron. Votron. Vector was the name of the pyramid scheme place that I used to sell Cutco knives from. I remember Vector. Now I know why I keep thinking of them. But anyway, Victor's Vector, a Voltane company. Zerg says, I can give you some pointers for next time. I am not ready for that yet. I mean, I would love pointers, but I wouldn't be able to take your advice yet. I'm still in the process of just trying to get these applications updated, migrated, and deployed as quickly as possible. So again, that whole time constraint thing, for now, I am very interested in it, but yeah, not just yet. I have loggers for both Lisa Control Panel, Libs, a WinForms recorder, and some other projects with and without DI, and connected to their own app insights. Cool. Yeah. Right now, event log is good enough for me. If an error happens, they're saying I'm seeing error 500 in the responses, or it just keeps telling me the yellow bar at the bottom that says an error has occurred, then I can go in, reproduce what they do, see the errors in the event log, or do it in dev. Napalm says, I am dealing with distributed transaction situation. Auth0 user has man, my throat is starting to go already. Auth user, I keep saying auth user. Auth0 has user create, update, and delete events. Thank you so much for the follow. Captain Krabs. Oh, I usually don't shout people out. Oh my gosh. But not like that, at least. I don't try to call people out when all they wanted to do was to follow. But this is Captain Krabs, guys. I don't know if you've ever seen Captain Krabs before, but Captain Krabs is a game developer. He has a game on Steam. If you want, you are welcome to share your link. There is absolutely no negative hard feelings about you just now following. It's never expected, always appreciated kind of situation. Captain Krabs has some amazing whatever these are called, clips.
But wait, if it's down here, does it not rotate too? Juice, thank you for the root beer. I appreciate it. It
You're
said
welcome.
root beer from Juice.
This is a good one.
That was pretty funny. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Root beer from Juice. Whoops.
Root beer from Juice. Yeah, but yeah, definitely feel free to share your Steam link or your link for your game, and tell us about what's going on with you. How are you doing? Are you having a fun day? It's Thursday. I am currently semi-debugging this situation. Napalm said to TBD. Did I finish reading your message? You have to use the log stream events to get that. Yeah, okay, so that's where I'm at. What concerns me, this is Napalm talking about the situation, to TBD, of course, but I'm reading it out loud anyway, is if the log stream events to update the roles makes it before the user create. Such a pain. Yeah, that doesn't make things easy. Do I create the user on the role assignment? Because I don't have all the necessary data on that event in the log stream to do so? I love my life. Lols. Zerg says, I mean, not so much for the current project. Then DC Aggie says, pointers are for C developers. We're more sharp and less pointy. TBD says, create the stub of the user because you're expecting to get it later, but then better than trying to do some crazy event coordination. I agree with this. A user with just an identifier and no details. And I believe you were actually doing this very process when you were setting up users in Liquid Sky, where you were deciding, do I just create the stub? Do I make sure that the user is created before this event happens? Yeah. Stuff. No. No, sir. It is not. Not on this channel, at least. We will have none of those on this channel. Captain Crab says, thought I was following. No worries at all. You got a bad one. Napalm said to TBD, that is a problem though. I don't really have enough for that, although I guess you could argue I have the user ID, can fill in the other crap later. Yeah, so a stub really is just, as long as you can reassociate whatever user record you're passing in with that ID, then you're good. You can set up all of the roles in whatever order you want, all of the additional information whenever. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, you're not going to be able to hear that even if I turn it up. Yeah, crabs. Looks so fun. Okay. So this is the link to Captain Krabs' game, which I need to put your game link on my moderator info. Deity me, how many tabs do you have open, dude? Don't call me dude. I'm not your dude. Game developers section. So I need to add Clayman Dev. Capped Crabs. And their Steam links and a blurb. I'll make a blurb for you guys from your descriptions and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna continue on. I'm just job hunting today. Well, I hope it goes well for you. Zerg said, stub sounds like such a slur, and no one shall convince me otherwise. Well, I will convince you that on this stream, when it's said, it is not a slur, because that's just not the way to go on this stream. TBD said to Napalm, that's what I do. Create a record with just the ID. You can always filter data to only such intact data, but you can also understand when you're missing events. I have no idea what that meant, but I hope it meant something to you, Napalm. DC Aggie said, wow, the art is so nice. Yeah, we're just letting it all play through again and again and again while I read this. And Captain Crab said, thanks. Marcus Voice Coder is here and said, Captain Krabs, what's your superpower? Can you walk sideways? Whoa, what happened? Did I scroll down? I scrolled down. When did I do that? Napalm said, thanks to TBD Gamer. Good thought. Captain Krabs said, always. Always. I used to crab walk because I was in marching band. And I was a bass drummer. And that was pretty much our mode of getting from point A to point B. Almost always crab walking. Because we were always turned sideways. BC Aggie said to Captain Krabs, does it happen to play nice with Proton Steam Deck? Zerg says, wah, Crab Rave booze level. Yeah, boss, my bad. I didn't read ahead. I am starting to fade. Wow. Oh my gosh, what's happening? We're good. We're good. We'll get back to coding as soon as I get my bearings. Tardigrade said, one of my students was complaining about his Chromebook school issued being slow. I went over to see what could be done. This kid had, no lie, over 50 tabs open on a Chromebook. On a Chromebook. Why would you do this? Captain Crab said it does work on Steam Deck. Yep. DC Aggie says, buying it right now then. Awesome. Awesome. Saget. TBD Gamer says, show? What are you correcting to show? Did I say something that wasn't show? My superpower is ADHD. I missed that statement from Captain Krabs. Oh, to only show intact. Okay, got it. TBD Gamer's lurking. I'm going to see if I can get Liquid Sky up and running. Enjoy your lurk. Thank you so much for being here. Zerg says, get your bearings. North is the way. North to treasure. I don't even know how to word this. There is a line that I recently heard that I absolutely loved, and I am most likely going to use it in the story. I grabbed, or no, what did it say? I picked up my compass. Not the one that points north, the one that points to useful. I really liked it, that one. And in the context is that it's a fantasy, adventure, magic, all that stuff kind of story. So anyway, that is Captain Krabs' Slimy Adventure. Check it out on Steam. Purchase it if you are so inclined. At minimum, wishlist it, follow, get him some visibility on Steam. And I really do hope your job hunt goes swimmingly, goes amazingly well. And Tardigrade says, have to scoot out. Thanks for the stream. And everyone have a stellar rest of the day. You as well. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I think we're going to go for another half hour. And then we'll end at 12:30 my time. That'll give me an hour to make up for some additional talking time that I did during the stream. And then I will feel okay about it. All about the way that I feel about it, isn't it? Always. So what did we find out was happening? We saw that we were adding, we finished parsing all of the files. We had to have finished parsing all of the files because it says we are adding 22 records to file details, right? And where did we put that comment? Here. Then we added them. Wait. Adding file details to upload requests. Sorry, we are here now. Then immediately after that is when this happened, which is telling me that as we're updating this collection, one file at a time. No, that's still fine. I think it's happening when we do this await invoke async down here. Oops, let me do it like this. So this is the very end of it. There's nothing else that gets called other than await invoke async. State is changed, because then we get back to here and then we turn loading to false. Marcus is saying, oh, speaking of Marcus, shout out to Marcus Voice Coder. If you are interested, and you must be interested, in seeing someone who is able to write swaths of code using just their voice, no trouble, then definitely check out a Marcus Voice Coder stream. He does software development using Talon for voice recognition and speech to text type of stuff and commands and stuff, as well as some Visual Studio Whisper, absolutely. Some Visual Studio Code extensions to decorate the screen with easy to jump to markers and stuff, and it's really cool to watch. It's very, very cool, in my opinion. So Marcus is saying, I used to really hate error messages. Now I just see them as an opportunity to copy and paste into Copilot and have a conversation with Copilot. Zerg said, Visual Studio Whisperer, question man. DC Aggie said to Captain Krabs, purchase complete, welcome to my backlog. Few make it out, but I'm chipping away at it. In fact, DC Aggie on occasion, I'm not going to be able to do this yet. DC Aggie on occasion does gaming streams. He has a brand new mask, so I'll give you a real shout out here in 46 seconds. He has a brand new mask. He has often been seen wearing masks for his stream content. It's just a thing he does, and it's really, his most recent mask looks really freaking cool. You can see an image of it in one of our Discord channels. I think it is on the show off channel, off topic. It's in one of these channels. Anyway, just look through Discord and you'll see it. Just look for a big shiny mask. It's awesome. But he does stream gaming on occasion. Okay, so we made it all the way down to adding, finished adding. We're going to see the finished adding show up. But as soon as we do the await invoke async, so I guess that's what I want to know. Does the error happen before we do loading files equals false? Or does it happen after, or at some point in time after we have finished the handle files? Let's find out. Mirror file. Mirror. Marcus said, I thought you was about to say really freaking scary. That was the point. TC Aggie says, or first, Captain Crab said, my backlog scares me. Yeah, I have a lot of story-driven games that are on my backlog. I haven't even, like, of course, typical normie. I have been super duper excited for the Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm proud of that. I'm not in any way ashamed, just so you know, and I don't want to bring shame to anyone else who was or is, but I have not been able to play, is it Retrograde that just came out? That came out a while ago. It's on my backlog. But it's the one that I want to play like now, like right now. But I just haven't played any games at all lately. I've just been so motivated to do creative endeavors instead. And I have way too many other things that I am wanting to do that are bringing me joy. I think the image link was set to expire, but I'll try to do a test stream with the new mask next week. I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. So you put it on a timer and then it went. disappeared, but it's really cool. And then Marcus said, it takes me ages to figure out a new game and then I have to automate it. Yeah. Yeah. But that also sounds like it could be part of a fun thing to do. It's like it's not necessarily playing the game itself, it's finding out how you can get it to work with your with Talon or whatever else it is that you're using for the game. Captain Crab said, I just picked up the RoboCop game because it was $8 on Xbox. RoboCop. Like, even the remake was a long time ago. That's terrible. I shouldn't say that. How do you know RoboCop? You're just a youngin'. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. DC Aggie says, ooh, tempting at $8. Too bad my Xbox is a few hundred miles away. Snubble's here. Hello, Hula Snubble. How are you doing on this fantastic first day? Hopefully well. We are trying to figure out... What are we even trying to figure out? I don't know what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know anything, ever. The order of operations of these things. Why aren't you hot reloading, too? RoboCop is a documentary, right? Oh my goodness, no. Kevin Krabs is like, it's becoming one. Dear me. Zerg said, I once tried to train Lisa. So if you guys don't know, oh man, I have so many shout outs to do. First, let's do DC Aggie, because I said I would. Then we're going to do a Zerg shout out. So once again, DC Aggie does on occasion stream gaming streams and has a fun time doing it. Sometimes, most of the time previously was wearing an interesting mask during it with a voice filter, and has a new mask that he will be wearing in future streams, I'm assuming. So then Zerg said, I once tried to train Lisa to play a dungeon crawler by making screenshots and taking keystrokes from Windows. I did not have enough storage space. That is a lot of screenshots. You need to delete old screenshots, or like find out a way to keep only keyframes from those past screenshots. But that's a lot of screenshots. Like, there should most likely be some instructions that are of the past X number of screenshots, only keep one or two of the most important ones. Like, I would even have a cataloging system set up for that in a vector database. That sounds like a lot of fun. Anyway, did I rerun this? I reran it. Let's try dragging in this file. Dragon files. Okay, so finished adding details, and then it did it again. This is a pre-render issue, isn't it? Okay, so let's read through this. We got one record check only, kind of looks like. Processing file, creating new file details for that file, parsing it, kick off the processing. Whoa. Wait, what? I think I need to make sure that these processing files are different messages. I only have it in there once. Spot the difference. Wait, I have an idea. I can rebrand one of my old recorder projects that already polls screen frames. On poll, read keys, save it to database. Light bulb. I hope you have fun doing it. So what exactly happened here though? This can't be a pre-render thing because we aren't doing this on render. We're waiting for it to finish its initial render. We're picking a file, dragging and dropping, and it looks like it's calling this multiple times. Not only that, yeah, okay, so handle files added happens here. Handle clear clicked. What happens in handle clear clicked? We cleared the file import data. Fine. Then we get the files from the iBrowser file or input file change event. We create a new check file object for each of them as a return object, because this is all clients. We do the check files call. Console. No. You are not null here. We've initialized you by this point. Yeah, we've initialized you by this point. How are you nullable? Oh, this one makes sense, doesn't it? Because this one is after that. But here we are initializing it to cur file. So yeah, you should not be nullable. There. Okay, we've kicked it off. We don't have any errors yet, so this shouldn't even be in the message because we haven't even sent it to the service to be processed or checked, I guess. Then we do all of this stuff, fine. But why, oh why, are we hitting processing file before seeing kicked off processing file? Oh, duh, we know why. Because the kicked off processing file starts here. Has to start here. What am I thinking? Created tasks for, oh yeah, file processing. And we can do task.count. Okay, so this is going to be kicking. Just adding more and more comments when I could just be trying to attach a debugger. But again, this is not going to be easy to debug because of the task when all. But there is only one task, so I wouldn't be thread switching really. But we will jump around a little bit because as soon as we step over this and then we do the console write line, we're going to step into this before we even get to the await. So we'll be jumping back and forth a little bit, and I don't want that right now. You know? Do you know what I say? Status change creeping in, creating loop. It isn't because nothing is happening in on after render. I don't have an overload for on after render. Good thought though. Finished file check. Yeah, so handle files added, kicked off file check for the specific record, or for the number of files that we are uploading, which is just one. Wait, why does that say 0? Because that's record count. Oh my gosh. This is what happens when you don't necessarily pay attention anymore. One more. This is fast, so shouldn't be too much of a bother. Captain Crab says, I used to do web coding years ago, but it was all PHP and ASP back then. Captain Crabs, I should tell you though. Please refrain from using foul language on our stream. Those words are not acceptable. Your behavior. How dare you say such things? PHP. Goodness, man. I kid, of course. That's really cool though. I absolutely love doing web development, app development in general. I still hold game developers. Okay. I'm gonna have to ask you. Look, more errors. One more. I started with Perl, says Captain Krabs. Yeah, I hold game developers in high regard just because of the immense amount of creativity and analytical mindset. So it's like both at the same time. Shout out to, who are we doing next? Zerg. Zerg is a app developer-ish. Like multimodal developer. So Zerg works on an AI everything encompassed entity. Can I call it an entity? Named Lisa, that is multimodal. It can do image recognition, it does speech recognition and talks back to you. Typically, it kind of discourages me from wanting to chat for the most part. So just to reiterate some of the questions that happened earlier, this status changed here. Is this causing issues was one of the questions. What should be happening is when we drag and drop a file, we do track files immediately on change. This gets run synchronously, essentially. I mean, it's an async task, but we are awaiting it on change, on files changed when you drag and drop a file. So all of this stuff here should only happen once, even if there is a re-render. We aren't re-triggering on change, to my knowledge. We can see that because there is only one handle files added message showing up in the console. Then we get to kicked off file check for one record here. It does the TRN service check files, and it says finish file check, which is this one here. Kicking off file processing, which happens before we start creating these async tasks, or not async tasks, but just regular tasks, of which there will only be one. So then that starts by the time we are saying processing file 0, that happens immediately. Yeah, so that happens immediately. We're reading through that, and we get to the parsing file message here. There is an await, so our thread jumps back to continuing here where we see this message that says created tasks for file processing next, then processing file 0 because of the await task when all. But does that mean that it's actually starting this process over? Because if so, that's where our issue is. I think that's what's happening. You're scared of chatting when Lisa's on. It's more scary for me. I don't know what foul secret she's gonna expose on me. Yeah, so I think, what am I supposed to do? Yeah. Can't have you. So why exactly am I keeping track of the tasks themselves? I don't need to, because I'm not getting the results from these tasks and using them anywhere. I am doing task.count, but that's neither hither nor thither. That's in a console debug write line. What do I want to do about this? What do I want to do about this? What if I did files to process? Is this? Then we could take those files to process and create the tasks inside of our await when all. And that way we're creating the tasks and awaiting them in one go. Oh, right. And then we could just do it like this at this point. Pretty. Get rid of that. We don't have tasks at this point, but we do have files to process. Okay. What do you say? I don't know that this is going to make a difference because as it's enumerating through all of these, it is going to start those processes, and this task when all will fire after it's done iterating through all of them. So we might still see the same issue happen. I am going to get rid of a lot of the other console write lines as soon as I see this happen again. Okay, so it does happen again still. And are we seeing processing file X parsed? No, it's not running it a second time. Okay, so we are only running it once now, which is good. Okay, so we are narrowing down the issue to being something inside of process file, or not even inside a process file, because we finished adding the details. Oh yeah. So definitely inside of process file down here at finished adding the file details. It's as soon as we do collection.add file details. Or maybe they'll wait invoke async afterwards. And in this case, I am using await invoke async inside of this method because we are potentially calling them on a different thread since we're using await task when all. Of course, if we're running only in the WASM in the client, then it will only ever be on the same UI thread. So we can get rid of you and you and you. Adieu. All right, we're narrowing it down now. Doing the do. I would bet on invoke async state is changed. I believe state is changed has already is already invoked when called directly. It isn't when you're on a different thread. in this case, I'm going to assume we're on the same thread because I don't have more than one file. So we could safely just do status changed. But if I try to do more than one file, at least one of them is going to be running on a different thread. If I'm in server mode. Of course, if I'm in WASM, then again, they're all going to be on the same thread and we won't have the issue. But I will get rid of it just as a test. There's nothing wrong with testing it. I am completely open to it. I just don't think that's going to make a difference. And what even is that? Anyway, doesn't matter. This is the first time I've seen that there. Okay, so we created the task. Did we create the task? I think that's the wrong text for this now, but this is the total number of files for processing. We do the file processing. We don't hit this twice because we are immediately awaiting it as soon as we do the select. So we start processing the file. We make it all the way to the end where we update the collection, and then we call status changed. But, oh, yeah. I guess this is also important. We're updating the collection first, and then we're doing status changed. So we are successfully adding the record. It has to be on this status changed. Let's just get rid of it. Let's see if we are still, if we actually need it in order to be able to see the files and the contents of the files. I mean, don't take my word for it. I have recently only done WinUI and Maui. Yeah, and it's going to be similar to that because when you have a Maui project, everything is running, or you have access to multiple threads. So it'll be like you're running in Blazor server. So that is valuable. That is helpful. All right. Okay. So this kind of just showed me that the state has changed here is important. Oh, yeah. Is important if I want the UI to be able to load the contents of each of the files as they are ready. And that was the whole point behind putting status changed here. Otherwise, it's going to wait until it updates this private variable. And since this is a private variable on this component, it will know that it has a dirty state that needs to be updated. DC Aggie is saying, I've been asked to give a 30-minute demo tutorial in a meeting tomorrow with all the developers in all our teams. Now, how do I fit what I want to share in just 30 minutes? A lot of people would be saying the opposite of that. They'd be like, how am I going to fill 30 minutes? DC Aggie's like, how am I going to trim this down to 30 minutes? You don't. You tell them the things that they should know. Okay, so I do want this here, but this is still telling me that we have a lot of issues, probably in the rendering of the UI. I spent all that time. I was mostly just trying to make it so that I can converse with you and not feel completely out of sorts about it. So we know all of this is working though. We know we make it all the way to the status change, and it's only when the UI is trying to render that we're running into this issue. This means that the error is happening either in get track data. There was another error at the end that we saw that had to do with, it was trying to do a dot single, it looked like, and there was more than one. Yeah, so these are dot single or defaults. And it's telling, it was probably loading more than one file, but that was when we were creating the task first and then awaiting that same task. So it was running the handle files loaded twice for the same file. Or not handle files loaded, process file, twice for the same file. And that meant that this thing would have multiple files, especially since it would have been a race condition for which one hit this first. And they probably both made it past here. Set was true to true at that point in time, meaning both of them added it to the curve file details as two separate objects. You give the top 3 things you want to share, DC Aggie, says Zerg. DC Aggie's like, how will I make the first one fit into 30 minutes? Are you going to actually give me UI, please? Thank you. I hope I gave this one intermediate role as well. Thank goodness. I was like, wait, is this the one where I only have final roll? Okay, so we've hit the breakpoint for this. We're going to find out which one of these. Well, we should know which one of these. It tells us line 31 is the one that does it. So I want to step into get track data. Get track data is synchronous. File is null and file name is interesting. So we get default back from track data. That's okay though, because track data is null. It does not like track data being null here. Oh. And is the error, oh, is the error already showing? No, it is not. It's trying to render again though. Why are you trying to render again? So track data is still null, but it's hitting this and immediately exiting. And that should not be the case. So what do I want to do with that? I think I want to adjust this just a little bit. I want to move all of this to code behind anyway. But instead of file details being null here, I want to do this. If this is not null, then we'll set file details equal to it, and we will end up with a non-null that thing. And you will no longer be singular default. And in fact, just to make it faster, instead of using singular default, we will end up using firster default, even though we are really only expecting 1 to come back. So we will do firster default. You are no longer null here because we know we've done that previous check, so we know you're going to only have 1 record. And that might help. That might help. Let's find out. Ooh, okay. DC Aggie says to Zerg, 1, what is datatables.net? Why is it useful? And what is a simple example? That sounds like 3 things in 1. 2, when things go wrong because the data you are putting into a table becomes large or is otherwise slow/expensive. And 3, how to use server-side search sort paging to overcome 2 while keeping security and maintainability. 3.5, further reading and resources. Before you ask, I didn't pick data tables. Yes, we are still on web forms, and yes, we have a very wide range of development skill and experience between the teams. Definitely no judgments here. Not for me. Zerg says, I mean, sounds good to me, especially if you're going to add code examples. you're gonna fill those 30 minutes easily. Honestly, I didn't even think about asking about the topic. If data tables is the topic, then that's the topic. Then that's what you get. Still. You're going to tell me a new line, hopefully, which is line 32. And that's still this null check, track data. Okay. This really doesn't make sense. Do you know what? It's got to be in the has changes. I think we're going to get rid of the change tracker, comparison tracker as is, because it is running into some issues with nullable properties inside of this. We're going to create our own comparison tracker. Sorry, Nick. It was helpful though for what it was used for, which was the first place that I think we started using Nick's change tracker, comparison tracker, sorry, was in RMA chain of custody. What's the name of this? RMA cloud. Goodness me. Oh, come on. Oh. I see what's happening. I can see what's happening. I just kind of throw my hand at the keyboard whenever that comes up. You want data tables? I'll show you data tables. So this one has this crazy form thing. It's made to look exactly like what the output is going to look like. But point is, we have these records that we can pull up and load, and we'll be able to see any changes that happen to them, track the changes that happen to them, see if they're errored. This thing up here is essentially the thing that runs every single time you change a value to see if any of the records in here have changes. And if they do have changes, then it will immediately update. And if they don't have changes, it doesn't do anything. DDMS was another place that we were using it because we are logging all of the scanned in documents and putting in database records associated with them. So for each of the document files, you will get the dirty state, not dirty state, done in a way that's like, if the thing has changes, then it's dirty state. We aren't just going to set the dirty flag as soon as one thing changes, because if you change it back, it's not dirty anymore. And then to be able to see the changes that are being made. Okay, so we hit the break. Well, we didn't hit the breakpoint because I didn't have a breakpoint on here. Okay, we hit the breakpoint, and the breakpoint says we do have track data. However, oh, that's what happened. The breakpoint was supposed to be on only the has changes itself. X dot has changes. Okay, so X is not null, but on that first try, X threw an exception. Did it? Was that where the exception happened? Yeah. So we need to inspect the comparison tracker object. Original has a whole bunch of null fields. Yeah, and I'm going to assume that this is what the case is. There are just a whole bunch of nulls, and the comparison tracker has logic that probably knows how to compare certain data types, but there are certain other data types that it might struggle with, like nullable integers, for example. We're in .NET something beyond what it used to be. It didn't used to have nullable types when this library was originally created. Well, you know what I mean by nullable types. Nullability, nullable enable kind of situation. So I think that's what this is an artifact of. Yeah. Okay, so I think I found out what the issue is, and it's just the comparison tracker, and that's kind of what I said at the very beginning anyway. And we, of course, we see the comparison tracker itself in the console log as being the culprit, but just didn't know exactly what it was. I was hoping that it was just that one of the objects that we were trying to pass in ended up being null, which was a me issue, and not that some of the fields that it was trying to compare to the original fields were null and it doesn't quite know how to handle null correctly. So we're going to update that, or I'm going to update that right now, but off stream, because I'm going to end here. Oh, because I want to make sure that for the rest of the day, I am doing client work only and not distracted so that I can feel like I can build them for the entire time. But thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you, Captain Krabs, for being here. DC Aggie, Zerg, all of yous, Marcus Voice Coder, scrolling up, Snobble, who popped in for a minute, TBD Gamer, many millions of people. Thank you so much again, Clayman Dev, for the raid and the lurks. And all of the people that came in with the Clayman Dev raid, we're going to raid out ourselves. And we are going to hop into an easy stream so that I can run to the restroom, continue doing the works. We're going to raid over to Candy Dev. He is a Godot developer working on his overlay, as well as a bot named Twitcher, and just a whole bunch of really fun stuff. He is usually accompanied by other streamers or other guests. Right now he has them both sitting on his head. I believe one of them is I Am Merlin, and the other one is Panda. So I Am a Merlin. I always call him just I Am Merlin. But yeah. So that's going to be it for my time. I will be back again tomorrow for Community Day. And Community Day on this channel, if you've never been, is a way for us to talk about technology as a community. Snubble is scheduled to present some stuff on shaders, and it's going to be really interesting in my opinion. And if there is time after that, we'll just have whatever conversations come up, whatever conversations you would like to have surrounding technology and our industry. Anything to do with software dev, anything to do with technology. It's usually welcome. Within reason, of course. But that's it. Ciao for now. Enjoy. My VODs are posted to YouTube after the stream, if you're interested in seeing them back. That's it for now. Ciao for now.